All right. Good afternoon. Looks like Jonathan, are you there? Maybe not. That's okay. So my name is Alice Jasper, and I'm the program manager for Good for Michigan. Today, we're going to be talking about how the U.S. Green Building Council of West Michigan can help businesses improve their environmental impacts as it pertains to their business and the built environment around them. So a little bit about Good for Michigan. If I can get my, all right. So Good for Michigan is a program of the Local First Educational Foundation. We work to promote and celebrate businesses that are having positive, sustainable impacts. And what we mean when we say sustainability is thinking about impacts on our local communities and the residents there, on the natural environment, how businesses are practicing their employee wellness, things like that. So that's kind of the broad scope of what Good for Michigan does. We work to provide tools and resources to basically help businesses assess where they're at and create the path of least resistance for them to improve. Good for Michigan works to engage all types of community stakeholders and experts in various forms of sustainability. So whether that be social justice and community advocacy experts, or if those are environmental experts, we work to pull those together so that we can create a program that really does reflect holistic sustainability. So from the social sustainability standpoint, Good for Michigan focuses on ways to close the wealth gap. From the environmental sustainability, what we mean there is increasing the number of environmental advocates and really getting people engaged and educated on ways to just be advocates. And then from the economic sustainability, of course, for a business to be sustainable at all, they have to be profitable. So ways to kind of tie all three of these in together to create a successful, profitable business. The quick impact assessment is kind of founded or grounded in the Good for Michigan is founded in the quick impact assessment. So it's kind of the foundation of this program. And what the assessment is it looks at all of those different components of sustainable business. So environment, community, employee wellness, and then we can kind of use that as a roadmap to help businesses, again, to determine where they're at, even package that as a way to communicate to their customer base or their constituents about what they're doing well. And then we can also identify opportunities for improvement and guide them towards the resources for those improvements. So just a brief overview of what the quick impact assessment looks at. The QIA reviews community. It looks at environment, governance practices, so how a business has institutionalized its mission, its vision, and a lot of these values of practicing using business as a force for good, how they really ingrain those into their everyday practices and policies. Workers, so how a business is engaging with their employees, the benefits that they might offer, opportunities for employees to kind of give feedback to their employers. And customers, which is not applicable to all business models, but the customer section looks at businesses who part of their mission is to serve a very specific customer base and how that customer base is impacted by the business's work. So this is kind of an overview of what the quick impact assessment can create. It sort of aggregates the data of a business's social and environmental performance. And today we're going to be talking with Jillian Guillaume from the U.S. Green Building Council of West Michigan, and she's going to be talking through some of the resources that her organization has to help your business improve your energy use reductions, and also operationalize ways to mitigate energy use, electricity use, gas usage, things like that, and save money in the process, which is always a good thing. So some of the things that we find in the quick impact assessment around some of the questions that we see in that assessment. It looks at greenhouse gas emissions reduced, sourcing from local suppliers, facility improvement with landlords or businesses who maybe don't own their brick and mortar. Are they collaborating with their landlord to improve their business or improve their buildings' energy performance? Water conservation practices, and monitoring energy use. And we're going to be going over a couple of these things today, specifically around monitoring energy use and opportunities to improve your facilities. So just briefly, again, if you're looking to get more engaged in Good for Michigan and you haven't already, it's pretty easy to do. You just log on to our website at goodfor.org, take the quick impact assessment, and it usually takes about 30 to 60 minutes for a business to take. And then you can attend some more of our workshops, engage in some of the resources and educational touch points that we have that we just want to create an offer for businesses to improve their sustainability impacts. And then continue to use business as a force for good, and we'll continue to celebrate all of the great work that you're doing and intentionality that you're putting into that. So with that, I'm going to pass things over to Jillian here, and she can walk through with you ways to improve your energy efficiency in your building.
Everybody can hear me. Okay, that laptop can hear me. Cool. Okay. Give me one moment, please. Okay. Hello, my name is Jillian Gim. Thank you to Local First and Alice Jasper for having us today. I am a program manager with the U.S. Green Building Council. And programs you may recognize by are the Grand Rapids 2030 District, Michigan Battle of the Buildings, Students for Sustainability. We also promote green certifications such as a Living Building Challenge, Net Zero Energy, Sites, Passive House, LEED. The bottom line to all we do is to empower you to decrease your carbon footprint through wise energy management and building design. When everyone does this, it creates more sustainable and healthy communities. In the end, that's what we're all about as well. So our organization exists to promote healthy and sustainable communities, which have a positive impact on the planet. Our expertise lies in the built environment, with more than 50% of the world's population, well, the world's pollution, coming from building stock and industry. Our cities are our highest opportunity to reduce our global pollution. The world is currently undergoing the largest human growth in history so far. And more than half of our population currently resides in the urban areas. And it's going to grow to 2/3 of us are going to be living in the, the urban areas. The world is currently undergoing the largest wave of human growth in human history. The built environment is projected to have 2.5 trillion square feet in 2060. This is double the building stock currently in existence. These urban centers will house 2/3 of the expected population of 10 billion people by 2060. To put this large number into perspective, this is equivalent to adding a New York City to the planet every 34 days for the next 40 years. And we just simply can't sustain that. We're already using more resources than are available on the planet, and adding the size of a New York City to the planet a little more than every month is not sustainable in the larger future of the globe. So this is why the USGBC of West Michigan concentrates their effort in the urban centers, because how they're managed and designed in a forward-thinking perspective is really the only way to combat as a solution. So now that we have this into context, though, it's how do we do this? Or rather, how do you do this as a business owner and a building owner. So 1 in 10 small businesses say that their greatest cost is energy, more than wages and salaries, materials, or supplies. And after that, 25% of them say that it's one of their second or third highest cost. So putting this national perspective on how important the built environment is to the economy as well as to people in the globe. The city of Grand Rapids alone has the ability to save $42 million in utility costs avoided. So this is good for business and is necessary to adapt to a changing global environment. What you're looking at right now is a graph on average energy use intensity that's broken down by building type or restaurant type, business type. You can see that restaurants are at the top. So this is by kBTU per square foot. It's called energy use intensity. A BTU is a measurement of energy, and when you put it over square feet, it equalizes everything. So you can compare on the same metric a fast food chain versus a warehouse versus a school or hospital. And you can see there's ice rink down lower there. So at the most energy intense industries, at 493 energy use intensity. Those are such small buildings, right? When you compare it to a warehouse down here at 76, you would think that a warehouse, because of its huge size, do you see this? Excuse me, I had something with my computer. But because the warehouse, because of its huge size, you would think that it uses more energy. But when in fact, when you compare all the energy use of a building and divide it by the square foot, the smaller ones, like a supermarket or a fast food restaurant, hospitals are huge because you're taking care of actual people year round, day around. What's interesting though is that restaurants operate on such a tight margin, and the financial priorities of a restaurant and the hours of operation don't lend it easy to making building upgrades or energy efficiency investments. Whereas moving things around to the warehouse and cutting off portions of it may be a little easier for them. But I'm telling you that if you see yourself up towards the top, it's one of the smartest things that you can do for a business, especially in compared to any other type of building sector there is. Well, you're just gonna keep looking at this a little longer. Okay, so here we are. So in the national scheme of things, small to medium-sized businesses spend about $60 billion across the nation on energy. But really, about 10 to 30% of that is wasted, which means that if you turn it around into a positive, 10 to 30% can be saved without ever decreasing the quality of your services, which means that the small and medium businesses across the nation can save about $6 to $18 billion just by cutting their utility costs and putting that back into their businesses. And when we're talking about the small to medium businesses of the United States, that's a good pulse for how the local economy and the local communities and the families are doing as well. So this is a bigger picture to the conversation about the health of the communities around these small businesses and what potential lies there. So this is all about context, right? And sometimes when we talk about big abstract things like the planet or the economy, it can be overwhelming to try to find how you fit into there. But with the global consequences, when they're so far removed from your day-to-day, it's tricky to see where you belong in that. But I'm telling you that monitoring the operations of your day-to-day does leave an impact. And this is called benchmarking. Benchmarking is a word that we use a lot in the energy world. And it's all about just creating context to these numbers that seem to be confusing. All you have to do is you monitor it and you compare its performance to your peers, which would be buildings like yours, businesses like yours, or an energy code or some sort of stake to see where you fall in the mix of things. And this can start just as simply as putting your utilities on an Excel sheet and see how you compare to last year. That's a benchmark, contextualizing it. And it can answer questions like, so my energy went up. Is that because my customers went up? Is it because I have more of a seasonal operations? Sometimes you can find there's actually like a leak in your rooftop unit and you wouldn't have known unless you were comparing in a benchmarking circumstance. So just by being aware and converting what would be a cost that you just write off into a metric of business management that you can change from just a check into something that you have control of, that's how you start making those improvements that decrease the cost of your operational costs, as well as promote your, how do I say, to promote your ethos of your business and what you want to be to the rest of your community as well, and to the rest of the globe. So there's more robust way to benchmark your energy use, and that's on Energy Star Portfolio Manager. It's a free platform from the EPA, and it gives you a more robust understanding of the impact of your daily cause and effect as it relates to other businesses around the nation, as well as the globe, is in your global impact. You can see your carbon footprint, you can check for abnormalities over time, you can compare your portfolio to your peers as well as your neighbors. I just want to break it down for you a little bit because sometimes this in itself can be confusing to the first look. So here in this example, this is their Energy Star score. It's 1 to 100, just as if we were in high school. So if the median is 50, this example is performing less than average nationwide. But something to notice that when you compare it to their baseline, they have improved. They're doing better since they started. So that's something to be applauded. So they put all this information in for energy, water. You can also do waste sometimes through these tabs up here that you see. And you do that by adding in these tabs, and then it illustrates itself on graphs such as what's being pointed at right now. And this is, if you're in office, this is what you would typically see. And if you don't see something like this, maybe you should look into it deeper. Natural gas usually always drops down to almost zero in the summer because you're not heating water, you're not heating space. But if you do have an operations that does use heating of water or some sort of heating as a constant part of your operations, then you'll see that not be so low. Usually AC also goes up vice versa from when natural gas peaks because you're trying to cool off the space, and that's usually done by electricity, right? So you'll definitely see trends of your own statistics over time, and then you can get a better pulse for how your building is doing from an energy perspective. Lastly, you add all this in through your meters down here. When you get the hang of it, it takes literally like 60 seconds, and then you go back to your normal day. As quickly as it was paying the utility bill to DTE or consumers, you can also add it in, and it's that simple of a habit. So back to this real quick. You can share this with competitions or with consultants for them to understand where you're coming from and the depth of the data behind your business. So for one of the ways that Michigan incentivizes people to reduce their energy use is through Michigan Battle of the Buildings. I don't know if you've heard of it. Michigan Battle of the Buildings is a Biggest Losers competition, but for energy, not for weight loss. And so if you lose the most energy in a year, you receive a bunch of credit and a bunch of rewards. And it's all based on EUI. Remember back then when you saw the KBTU over square foot? That was making everybody an equal playing field. But that can be GM, Chrysler, with the actual manufacturing, very intensive, an office building. Literally a nail salon participates as well. Because when you make it the common denominator that everyone can participate, it creates this friendly competition that people get really curious about. Some of the biggest feedback that we get is that it's fun and it's simple. And because of its simplicity and its funness, that's why people keep coming back. It's been growing exponentially for the last 5 years. And so you get your rewards at the Michigan Energy office. Excuse me, the Michigan Energy Summit. The Michigan Energy Summit is when the biggest losers are announced from Battle of the Buildings. And so about 200 to 300 building owners and business owners come here to network and swap stories and listen to our national keynote speaker. Last year we brought in Majora Carter, who's a renowned developer. And if you don't know her, definitely look her up. She's so awesome. And the winners receive a lot of public recognition, but a lot of lessons learned as well to how to make their businesses better for the next year and the next year. And this is all handled on Energy Star Portfolio Manager, what we had just showed you earlier. But see, so it's all fun, that's awesome. But there's a big power to the simplicity of us friendly competition. So over the last 5 years, 192 million square feet participated. Restaurants, manufacturers, office buildings, collectively, everyone has reduced 135,000 metric tons of CO2. So that's a big number, but what does that mean? That means that your ordinary facilities manager, your ordinary business owner, everybody in Michigan has reduced the amount of CO2 that's equivalent to planting 8.2 million million saplings. I realize that this is in Spanish right now, but it's 8.2 million saplings for those who are curious. And lastly, $14 million have been saved in the local economy. And that's pretty good for Michigan. If you're interested in learning more, MichiganBattleoftheBuildings.org is where you go. So switching gears from the nation's only statewide energy competition, this is where you can get deep into the zero carbon initiatives of the cities in Michigan. So our urban centers that we have currently in part of the 2030 network, you can see here that there's Philadelphia, San Antonio, Albuquerque, Ithaca, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor and Detroit are also involved. And we're collectively trying to be leading cities around the country for working strategically to be zero carbon by 2050 as aligned with the UN Paris Climate Accord. And collectively that would be 50% by 2030, hence the names. This is led by the private sector, with local businesses uniting in a shared vision of sustainability and economic development. This collaborative model works to reduce energy, water, and transportation for more sustainable and healthy communities for everybody. And every type of organization deserves to be at the table, whether that's a coffee shop or a bus transit station or a house of worship, hotel chain. See, because we know our communities best. And what works for Toronto won't work for San Diego and won't work for Grand Rapids. It's our people, our table, creating solutions that work for our community the best to get to zero carbon by 2050, as with the Paris Climate Accord. So across Michigan, if you're curious about how to get involved, there's Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Detroit. We're all urban hubs related to this 2030 network. And even if you're not in these hubs, you still can use us as resources for how to get your building to zero carbon as well. So backing up a little bit to the whole idea of zero carbon, the whole idea of getting your building as efficient as possible. There's definitely something noticed on the desire to participate, but the ability to participate and the first steps in the roadmap of where to start. I'm so curious do I change my windows first? Do I look at my HVAC first? Like, where do I start? And so the Energy Assistance Program was created as a way to bridge that market gap and giving people a diagnostic look deep into their building, prioritized by ROI, return on investment. So prioritized on what would make their money back to them the quickest, to be able to reinvest smartly until they have brought their building as low in energies as possible. So this is open to what we would call hard to reach areas, those who really want to participate, though there's so much going on and so many different priorities within the community, within the organization, that sometimes energy efficiency has fallen to the wayside, even though they would love to cut that utility bill in half. So we hire an auditor for you. You don't ever see a bill. They do an energy benchmark for you. They deeply go through your building. They look at your utility bills and identify ways that work for you. And you receive this report. It's very diagnostic to your organization, what you do, and what building you work in. And then you decide what works best for you. There's no strings attached on this. It's just giving information for people who are desiring to know what to do next, to be able to have the strategic steps on how to make their building more environmentally friendly for the world, but also like smart business for themselves. So that's the Energy Assistance Program. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go to usgbcwm.org for the program. And it's wildly successful. For every dollar that we invest in an audit, $3 of opportunities have been discovered for the small businesses. We have GRHQ is a drop-in shelter for youth experiencing unsafe or unstable housing. And they were able to find a lot of insulation opportunities, as well as how to change their roof in a way that would decrease the EUI, the energy use intensity of their building, in a really affordable manner. And if you look at Javier Rivera from the Supermercado Mexico, up in the corner, he has told La Mejor that in 1 year he's had the opportunity to save about $30,000. So this is actual tangible evidence that when information is given to a small business owner or a nonprofit, they will be able to have the tools and resources to make that next step for an energy efficient organization and also save themselves money along the way. Another thing that we do, switching gears one more time, is the Students for Sustainability. The Students for Sustainability team, that we work together with a team with a community to engage students, teachers, and parents in a service learning project across West Michigan. Our goal is to help create healthy, sustainable learning environments for future generations. And through this living lab, the students practice building assessment and design skills. This has been going on for 3 years now. And you can see our partners who participate in that. Lastly, we advocate for green consultant design, green construction design. It's a common misconception that green buildings cost more. They don't. If you consider the lifetime of a building, it is much more affordable to have a greenly designed building than just plain energy code. Building a building to energy code is legally the bare minimum you can do. The examples of certifications which prove that your building is superior in design and operations can be, as you see here, Passive House, Building Challenge, Energy Star certification, LEED certification, sites, well, it goes on. There's only 4 options here, but we do promote more. And the value of any building that is designed with a forward-thinking concept of sustainability has healthier, happier occupants, less sick days of employees. It has a higher building value and a lower cost of living to just operate in the building. So if there's anything you should take away from this webinar, building a building with green design is the best thing you can do for your pocketbooks. So thank you very much. Again, my name is Jillian Gim. I'm a program manager with the West Michigan chapter of U.S. Green Building Council, and some websites that you can check are below. One thing that I want to show you before I go is how simple it is to create an Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. If you bear with me one moment. So Local First, Al Shasberg from Local First was so kind to be able to send some information over to me literally this morning. And it's that simple. It was easy to create for her, and I wanted to show you what we did. So if you don't have an account yet, you would click Create a New Account. And ask for your username and password, your name and your job title, email, address, etc. Your organization name and what type of organization you are, right? Probably, for starters, you probably would say no on if your organization is an Energy Star partner. And then, yes, you do want it shareable, because that is one of the great benefits of Energy Star Portfolio Manager, is that you can share it. You're not a robot, you create, right? So I already did that though, so I'll save you that. So this is Local Firsts, okay, signed in. So right here is their property, but first you would just see it completely blank, okay? And when you go over here in the corner, you would see add property. So you add a property. What kind of property is it? I clicked office, it's just a plain office. Up here, medical, veterinary, or normal. So is your property a part of a building? Like, are you a tenant? Are you a building? Or are you a campus? Like, do you have multiple buildings under your name? Maybe it's not a campus, but that you have multiple locations. Like if you're like a bank branch or something, then you would have multiple. You're most likely existing, but maybe you're just designing to check it out, or you're testing scenarios. But probably do existing, get started. Again, I already did this, so I'm gonna back out for a second. And then you'll have your property right here, okay? So I'm gonna click into Local First Property, and you'll see they're doing really well. You see the Energy Star score? And how they found that, well, I'm not gonna lie, how I found that for them is I entered in their utility bills real quick. And I did that through scrolling down, going to the Energy tab up here, scrolling down and adding a meter right here, okay? Natural gas, electricity, right? But we already know that because I already have them logged in. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so we're gonna go into electric meter. You see all the information. Date started, date ended, use. So I uploaded this with just one Excel sheet. It's down here a little bit right here. It says spreadsheet template. The spreadsheet template looks like this. Start, end, usage. Is it estimate? No, it's not. No. Everything else is optional. After I was done with that, choose file, upload, save bills. And same with natural gas. It looks like this, right? Okay. And that's how you do it. And for every new month that comes in, right, add another entry. And then done. And then your usage. And then save and go home. Lastly, I wanted to show you how to connect this with Battle of the Buildings if you're interested in competing. So you go to contacts. So think of like Facebook, right? You're gonna friend request me, right? And so we're literally just gonna type in Michigan Battle of the Buildings, and you would send me a friend request, right? But like, for example, you know how you may have like private photo albums on Facebook? Just because we're connected doesn't mean that I see your properties. So you would go into portfolio, into your property account, and scroll down here to share, right? So you would share with your contacts. And right now they're with the 23 district and all the buildings. You can do a bulk share right at once. So what's confusing is that here's a bulk share personalized, but then there's a third one that says read only. And since we're already at a read only basis, you don't see it as an option, but click read only. In that way, you're already enrolled in the competition. And if you lose the most energy in the year, I'll let you know and we can invite you to the. So that's all I got, guys. Thank you so much for listening. You can connect with me at Jillian, spelled with a G, at usgbcwm.org if you have any questions about your sustainability of your buildings. I'll turn it over for questions. Thank you so much. I can hear you all clapping.
Thanks so much, Jillian. There's a lot of really great resources out there that don't only impact the environment and your pocketbook, but also it seems like there's a lot of tangible data around how people are people who are living or spending time occupying these spaces. So I really appreciate you kind of pulling all of those components, sustainability, the people, planet, and profit together. And I also appreciate you signing us up for getting our utilities into property manager or EPA. So that will be super helpful, and we'll try to stay date on that and continue to track our the team here at the local first office. We've only got one or two people in our right now. If anybody has any questions, feel free to just type in your message there, and we can go from there. And if you don't have any questions, but you maybe think of something later on, you are welcome to contact Jillian or myself at Alice at peoplefirsteconomy.org. Since it doesn't seem that we have any questions, I just want to thank y'all for taking some time to check us out and learn a little bit more about opportunities, some really accessible opportunities to improve your energy impact. So thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.